Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Jumpstart. My name is Jason Meyer, and today we're going to be talking about structure and flow in our work. Structure and flow today. So the plan is we're going to start by looking at some exercises, and then I want to have a little talk. We're going to look at Egyptian art versus Roman art and introduce this idea of structure and flow. And then we're going to finish up with, we'll take a look at a start of Sue's. And then Katie's got some mother and daughter portraits, it looks like, from through the years of the, or maybe it's a son too, I don't know. Too early to say. Mother-child portraits from baby, and it looks as it grows old, so I like this idea. Challenging, but I like that idea. So we'll be looking at those today. And so, let's see, what's the announcements we got? Tonight at 7 o'clock, from 7 to 8, we're going to have our first Procreate class, Introduction to Procreate. So if you get right on it, there's still time to sign up for that, and that's going to be tonight at 7 on Zoom. That'll run through our online school. And let's see, I think that's it. Tomorrow morning there'll be Masterworks again right here on YouTube at 8 a.m. And then we'll pick up with, we've got class for all those in class this month on Friday morning, and Sunday we'll be back for Sketch Club. All right, so let's get going. So let's see, before we do this, why don't we have a look at some of Susan's assignments? All right, so the exercise here was to get even flat tones with a variety of edges, and we wanted to get those flat tones whoops, that's a little big. I don't think that was necessary. What do we got there? I don't think I want that. I don't think I like that one. All right. So the compressed charcoal, and I love this little, like as dark as you can go with hard edges. That's sort of the, not sorta, it is basically the limit of dark for that material. So up here we've got compressed charcoal. Down here we've got vine charcoal. And then of course we've got our white chalk down here. But the point of this is to learn that the maximum isn't the only thing you can do with these tools. Right? That's quite a difference. Right? Between max and minimum. Okay, so there's lots of ways that we can go astray here. Right? If we're trying to get flat, even tones. So one of the skills you want to acquire is the skill to go darker and hold it, to go a little grayer and hold it, right? A little lighter, and how light can you go? And along with those skills, right, the skill in the different edges. Okay, so we've got different tones with different edges. Okay, done with different material. Compressed charcoal, vine charcoal, and chalk. Okay, so this is kind of like the artist's gym here. You're just going to the gym, you're having a good workout, and and you're getting ready for game day. So very good on this. Very good. Now, the program today is about structure and flow. So this is structure. That's not showing up very well at all, is it? That's not showing up very well at all. Let's try that again. There we go. So we've got our structure here with the hard edge. And then here, as we have this lost and loose edge, that is our flow. Okay, so structure, right? Very structural. Very structural. Structure, flow. Structure, flow. Structure, flow. Okay, so I just want to get us all thinking in those terms. All right, my fingers are having a hard time this morning. Or the computer's having a hard time this morning. Let's see, there we go. Okay, so good job, flat tones on our exercise. So let's pause here for a second. Let's pause here for just a second, and let's look at some Egyptian art. Some Egyptian art. Let's get on the right program here. So one of the things we want to notice when we're looking at the Egyptian art is they're either sideways or they're forward. Right? So it's almost like they work in 90 degrees. They can work in terms of 90 degrees. Let's see, that's not an ancient one, but here you can see the owl is facing you and the body is completely sideways. So things will either be completely sideways or directly looking onto you. Okay, so that's Egyptian art. And so that's a 90-degree angle, right? So those of you that aren't good with math, that means we're going to go from directly horizontal to directly vertical, which gives us a corner, right? A very square corner. And the only problem with that is that there's not a lot of flow. I'm not finding the best examples here. I thought I could just look these up and have them. Let's see what we got. We got ancient. Anyway, pretty stiff, right? Statues are all facing forward, 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 forward. Now, if we fast forward and we get to Roman art, you're going to notice that now we're talking 3/4, somewhere between straight on and to the side. And when you just say that, that might seem like a very big deal. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. That step between forward and sideways, that in between step, opens up the world of flow and movement like it hadn't before. Right? Consider how much more alive we look here Right? This may be ancient Greek too. I forget. But the idea is we're going from this to this. Right? So look at the movement here. Right? And what's the difference between this movement and this movement? Can you spot the difference? Well, the difference is this is built on a curve and this is built on a straight. So that some of it is curves versus straight, but the other part of that is the connection, right? If your head is turned up this way and twisted, how are you going to show that in relationship to your chest and your torso? Well, we've got to make sure that this connector, that the connection is working. Okay, so when we want to go from stiff to alive, the two things we're going to concern ourselves with is a curve gesture, and we're going to pay particular attention to the connections. Okay, so with those things in mind, let's head over to the iPad and see what we can get into. See just what we can get into. There we are. All right, so this is the lay-in for Sue. See, we saw the little study of this. And so very, very beautiful. Right? So where could structure and flow happen here? Where could structure and flow happen here? Well, I think this is a great opportunity for some structure, right? Just to get some solidity in there so we don't feel like we're just floating in air. And then I know she's, this is after another painting, but see if there's not a slight twist, right? And if that's there, we get it. To me right now, from what we're seeing, it seems like you're showing me more of this side than you are that. So if we take the side of the face, and we have, and you may want to just exaggerate it a little bit. But if we just move that over a bit so that this is less, right, that side of the nose, and this side of the nose is definitely more. Okay, so also part of movement and flow is that unequalness. Right, so if you're talking in terms of gradation, structure comes when there's a little more straights and there's a step. Boom, we're going from dark to light. Right? Movement's gonna come where there's rounds and there's more gradations than step. Gradations, open edges versus steps. Okay? So again, I know you're going after a painting, but I know you're also kind of doing your own thing. And I'm simply critiquing this on what we're seeing here. Okay, so I like the open edges you have. I would make the this a little bit more unequal between the sides, particularly on the face. And it doesn't have to be drastic, but make it clear. That'll make a big difference. And then the other thing you want to show, if there is such, is the twist. Right? So we're going here, and then so there's a slight, how do we show that twist? Right, well, let's point that back there. Could point that all through there. And then, so what does that mean? What do we have? Well, we have a stretch and we have a pinch. Right, so then make sure to get a few of these things happening here and see if what's happening here can't be. You see the difference? Right, because this stretching versus this pinching, right, is also part of the structure and flow. Okay, so as far as what you've got set up here, Sue, it's looking pretty fantastic to me. It's looking pretty fantastic to me. And again, I know this is just laid in, but I'm going to make sure that this architecture here, again, I know you're after something, but this is probably somewhat dark or something, so make sure that's structural and that this really appears differently than that, because that is way back there. Right, and so then it'll be the same, you know, with these darks versus that background if it's way back there. All right, I probably need to, maybe you've showed me, I just can't think of it right now. Look at that reference you're using too and see. But I think you're on fire. I really think you're on fire. And I like, the other thing I really like about this, Sue, right now is it looks like you're thinking about light and then maybe a little bit not so much here, so this is weakened over here with a stronger dark here and then a little bit lighter over here. So so yeah, I think go for it. One last thing is you might want to sneak a little light right back over here. And the only reason I'm just thinking something, because if we get right there, what's taking us over here? You know, and maybe you're going to do that down here. Like I could see you could do that there to kind of pull the eye if we wanted to. Or I could also see, you know, conceptually having a little more down here. So let's look at the difference between those two on the effect of the painting. If we've got this, right, and we're holding them right there, this is going to be rather peaceful. And it's going to be more peaceful because of the stability. Okay? Which very well may be what we're going for. But if we needed a little more action or something, I may have some smoke or light or something coming out of here. So we're going up here, we're going to get down here, we're coming here, right? And then maybe over there. So, right, you can see that's not as peaceful, it's more dynamic. But ultimately, it's up to you. Like, do you want a dynamic composition? Or would you like the more peaceful composition? Okay. So the size and placement, I think very, very good. In some ways, that's a little bit low. On the canvas, but in other ways it kind of brings a humility to it, right? Because we're not saying big ego and important, but you know, the preciousness, under all this weight. I think that's it's a nice contrast. Okay, so good job, Sue. Good job. How are we doing on time? 8:20. Not too bad. Not too bad. So evidently the story is I mucked this up pretty bad. I had some buttons pressed wrong when I went live this morning, and so it started broadcasting my music, and that was going to get us in all kinds of trouble with copyright, so we had to stop and relaunch. And evidently as I relaunched, it's not picking up live. So I'm hoping when we finish this, I've got a recording of it, and if that's the case, I will then post it to YouTube. So there's the backstory on what happened there. And let us move on to Katie. So great job, Sue. Great job. So if some of you guys are, yeah, I got my whole system kind of mucked up now. I can see on the screen. Are you guys, oh yeah, and that doesn't rise or fall. Oof, got myself into a little bit of a pickle. So absolutely beautiful, Katie. Absolutely beautiful. And now I see a lot of artists do things like this, and the reason I wanted to do structure and flow today was specifically for these. I thought these examples were so good that you gave. So we've got, so what is that? So that's 90 degrees, right? Rather than 3/4, and this is 90 degrees. Okay, remember the start of our Egyptian, that 90 to 90? So we can get away with that as long as we give them a little twist to the body, right? And here, that's going to help. So how do we want to see that body twisted? Well, rather than do this, right, I want to know about that, right? I want to know that there's a top plane here, which isn't B top. If the bottom of the neck's here, the bottom of the neck's probably back there. So that this plane is going to be something like this. And there's going to be a collarbone there. And then so we're going to go from this top plane down. Down. Right? And I'm not doing, I'm thinking structural, like bone right now. Right? So like her rib cage, right? Forget like the breast and everything like that, but just think that rib cage. That's going down. And then the breasts sit on top of that. So what I'm talking about here is if we saw it just like a cube, right? It's going to be something like that. Now it's not a cube. Why is it not a cube? Well, the bones and stuff is a little bit goes like that. This is going to go, right? There's more curves in it. But sometimes we've got to simplify to understand these things. So there, and then what we want to do is, then the breasts are going to come on top of that. Why is this important? And then what are the breasts? Well, the breasts are basically just augmented cones or half spheres, right? We can think of those in those different ways. So if I can think cube or egg, and I can think cone or half sphere, then I have all the information I need to construct all of this and make it work together. Okay, so let's look at what that might be. And why I'm going through this is because this is how you'll control these things. These things that are felt more than seen. Right? So what we want to do here is we need to show the difference between the front of the face And how are we going to do that? Right? If this is the corner, and yeah, it's going to go something like this. Right? Actually, it's going to go something like that. But we're going to simplify so it's easier to see. Then we've got to turn that corner, and I need to know whether we're turning the corner like that or we're turning the corner like that. So which feels better to you? Oops. Mess that up. So the lines will be, so if this goes this way, then guess what? This will go that way. If this goes this way, then that will go that way. And then that will go like that. Copy, copy, copy. All right, does that seem like what we're seeing? Does that seem, so if we're seeing that, then what does that mean? That means we're seeing underneath. We're seeing the chin. Okay? So that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. So, but, okay, well, are we seeing the top of the head? Right, and that feels right. Why? Because she's looking down. Right, and so these have to have that down so that the eyes can be looking down. So I know that's super fast if you've never been exposed to that, but the course, our online course, the fundamental forms, I introduce you to the cube, the sphere, the cylinder, and how the anatomy of it and how to light it. Right? Once you know that, and then once you know how to combine those forms, then we can think of these things more abstractly. More abstractly. Like, so, you know, and I know she may have been wearing something that went around her neck, or maybe this is going to go up and over, and then, well, whatever it does, we have to make sure that we describe, right, those things. And if we do it this way, do you see how flattening that out can get us into real trouble? So we have to make sure that the purpose of this is we're showing that we're going around and over those shoulders, falling over that collarbone, right? And then leaving the chest because of the forms on top of the chest, right? And we want to, right? And I mean, we don't have to get all the way like that, but the suggestion will help. And if the fabric's not going to show the rise and fall and rise, then what it's got to show is that it's pulled taut so that it's straight. And how can we do that? Well, if the light is coming this way, right, this is pulled straight, then what you're going to see is the forms. So that'll be a soft edge here as it turns, and then a hard edge here from the cast shadow, and then the soft edge here, and then, yeah, let's end a little bit. Okay? So let's make sure we show that. And then the other thing we've got to show is we're not doing that because her shoulders aren't completely sideways. We've got a twist in there. So we want to show that this neck is connected right behind the ear, and that that's going around, right? And that's connected there, and then we're going up. So then this is the underneath. That's going to pull over all of that. Okay, so the order becomes important too, right? So now this is in front, right? Then that's behind that. And then make sure, even if you don't see it, we probably need a little bit of shadow to turn that over, right? Unless it's all in shadow, and then we might need some reflected light or something like that. Okay? So if you can show those twists and make sure you orient that in space. Now the same thing with the baby here. Right? We've got to show that he or she's got a slight twist or something to it. So how are we doing? Well, we don't want to show that the baby, that the baby's right, is like that. I don't know. Can we bring? Do we want the shoulders a little bit more like that, or do we want this front shoulder forward, right, and it more a little bit almost stacked, like it's going back like that? Okay, so those are the things I'm really looking for here. It seems to me that you've got some pretty good skill drawing and all of that, but to really make these things come alive, we've got to show those connections and the volumes, right? And changing, like we want to show that we're going from here, on this axis to, do we have a different axis here? Is it the same axis? What is it? And if we can vary those axes just a little bit, like as I do, look at what we've done. So she's pointing that way, pointing that way, pointing that way. So where should these shoulders point? I don't know. Right? So what would, is that gonna, no. What if that was here and, right? Yeah. So I think if we drop, this forward shoulder back and then put that shoulder forward, then again, he's going to be pointing in with the rest of this. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes, feeling good volume here, feeling good volume here. You're going to have to be careful. You're going to have to be careful about planes. About the planes of the light. It gets a little bit tricky. All right, but we may have to take up that one on another time. I want to introduce these big things, and you can wrestle with these abstractly. And then you could send some cylinders and things to me and go, hey, how would this work with that? So here it looks like it's a little bit older. And again, we want to make sure that, all right, so you've got that nice tilt there. So that means there's going to be a pinch here, right? And then the stretch is going to be on that other side. Right? So for that pinch, maybe we'll bring this shoulder up a little bit and then let that fall down a little bit. Good, 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 good. And then the same thing is we've got to show the twist here somehow. So we don't want to go constant from here all the way out. The reason being is we're going around the neck, and then this is an underplane, right, as it turns under, and then this is the shoulder going back. So we've got to show all those things happening right there, and we want to remember that in that we want to express the twist, right, and the stretch. This is feeling a lot better to me, like that feels there. Okay, let's see. So it looks like you've got the light coming in here from that. So make sure that, right, that turns over into shadow. Right, I see that you've got that. Okay. Yeah, and then, well, depending on where this goes exactly, you've got to get your cast shadows in there. Oh, you're gonna like have the sun come like right in between them. Okay. So you're wrapping around this way. Okay. Okay, I think you're pretty good here. I think you're pretty good here. Um, I think you're going to kind of reconsider your setup here. I know those darks are important. Let's see. You're doing exactly what I said here, but we need to... Oops. Somebody didn't layer up. We have all this bright, beautiful water out here. So I think what we're going to have to do is to make sure to bring the chroma of our darks. And when we're outside, for sure, our darks are... our darks can be not so bright with reflection. Let's see if we can show you little David Jonas. You see these shadows right here? They're not quite so heavy. And you see how they're more colorful? All right, so I think you're going to want to push your shadows when they're outside a little bit more like this. And now this blue, I'm going to have you go a little bit darker and grayer on it. Okay? So I think if you do that, you know, bring those colors in there, and then some of the hair, you can have your darks right on the hair, right? And maybe little dark accents. If there's little dark accents in here. But in the flesh tone shadows, I think that's going to be a little bit lit up too. Right? And the shadow, let's see. All right, let's go. I can't help it. We gotta see what we can do here. So if we've got, let's brighten that up. I didn't get that bright enough. If we've got the light coming in over here and it's looking down, right, then what's going to happen is, if it's coming down, then there might be a shadow that falls right to there, but this arm will be lit up, right? And the shadow is going to go back and over, and that'll be lit up. And that might turn over a little bit, but that'll be lit. All right, and then this would be lit like that. And you know, and I don't know, but yeah, no, you don't want to do that. Okay, and then the baby, he's getting light like that, right? Would be something like that. And if it's overhead, yeah, this will be lit up this side, and then our shadows gonna go a little bit dark. So our big heavy shadow would be like there and maybe there, depending on how much hair this little guy has. All right, and then for those other colors, you're probably gonna want to come down into this area, if that makes sense. Right, so not quite so dark, but still dark enough. All right, I hope that makes sense. And then that's got to read, right? So then the question is, how like maybe we want, and we can have some coming and going, but see, that even looks too much to me. So if we sacrifice some of that blue, or what we think of as blue, we can get more onto the mother and child. And then, it doesn't really take that much blue. Right, we could decide maybe we want to focus right here. So get your colors around. And then your white. Maybe just not so much. Okay, and I think that's going to make for a much stronger imaging, focusing more on the mother and the child than the landscape. All right, let's do one last one here. How are we doing on time? 41? Okay. So, oh man, it looks like the baby's growing. Oof. Oof, oof. Pull my heartstring. All right. Baby's growing. Baby's growing, growing, growing. See, here I feel right, we've got this in front of this, in front of that, right, in front of that, and then that's in front of that, and then this is in front of that, and that's in front of that. Right, so you've got some good stacking going on here, so that's really good. So again, make sure we get that twist in there. We get that twist, and then so arms are going to be like that, and they're going to go in the direction wherever the elbow's pointing, right? That's kind of the upper thing. Like if the elbow was up here, it would go like that. If the elbow, right? So you can follow the elbow, right? Where's her elbow? Her elbow's there, so the wherever her arm is, it's going to go like that, right? It looks like it's probably under there. Okay, so like even right in here, we're going to have to come up with a transition that says twist. Okay? Twist. And then our structure versus flow. So if we can think about the wrist as a square, if we can square that off a little bit, because what's going to happen is if it's just, it feels rubbery. So we need definite points of contact, and this wrist, the squareness of the wrist is a point of contact. Point of structure. So let's say the wrist is like that, and then what happens from the wrist? Well, then that hand starts bulging out a little bit, right? Because we've got the side plane, and then over here the same thing is going, so getting a little bit bigger at the knuckles. Right, so you've got the side plane, we've got the top plane, and then you've got these little mountains of knuckles which are on top. And then from here, what do we have? Well, we go out into cylinders. Right, and our cylinders are made into 3 joints. Right, and each cylinder will get a little smaller and smaller and smaller. Right, and from that wrist, squareness will go, this will turn into, okay, so in this case, our structure comes with the bone and the square, and then we get a little flowier right? And then flowier. Because you do want these hands, right? What we want to do with the hand is make sure that we've got, what's happening here is it's like you've got all of this, boom. And then it's going to go a little bit smaller as it starts to fan out. And then we're going to go smaller as it starts to fan out again. And then as we get to our ends, right, and our hands, our middle finger is going to be the most. So if we can add that to there, I think you're going to be very well served. Okay, as far as structure here, like just even a little indication of where the elbow goes, right? I like the way you've changed the angles there, but again, when I look at this and this, right, I'm having a hard time reconciling that arm, because this is telling me that that light's in front of it, right, hitting us right there, right? So from right and above, and if that's the case, then So let's look at this. What if we level up? Let's just go for a darker red for our shadows. Darker red for the shadows. So here, I like this. All right, yeah. Okay, a little bit, yeah. Yeah. The shadow underneath there. And then this, let's see. So we've got to get this highlight lined up with this cast shadow. So we've got to kind of figure out what's happening here. I guess we could do that, and then that shadow would run like that. Let's come in here. And again, let's show this and then show that. Let's see, is this the pinch or the stretch? This is the stretch here. So we want that. And then over here, we want that kind of more abrupt thing happening. All right, so that's going to be all shadow. 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 All right, and shadow. So make sure, yeah, we turn those like we need coming up above. Let's see, shadow underneath. At least shadow or air on that side. And then that would go for all of those as well. Hook up, and then on the knuckles, right, the near side would be shadowed. This is coming up here. All of that might kind of be in air, like you got it. So I think you're doing pretty good. But again, we can't go just light to light here. Now with value and stuff, you can do it. It looks like you're doing it, but show that this is facing up a little bit, and then that's facing that way, and then that shoulder is facing that way. So I like the strength of this But with temperature and all of that, we're going to have to show some of those plane changes, okay? And then the last thing I would say is I would definitely separate my background from my foreground. And there's two things you could do. You can make this color a little brighter, right, and keep that dark. Or you could get that background at a value in between your light and your shadow. So that seems a little light to me. Look how dark we are. That still seems light. All right, see that's darker than the shadow. So it went too much. Right? So that's the same value with the shadow. So I could go as dark as that, maintain the same value, and then just really make sure that this is a weaker color back here. Right. And I think it's just so cool. Well, let's see. Quit thinking and just do it. Quit thinking and just, okay. Here we go. Yeah, and again, so what I think that what you want to look at is how strong is the background? Is my background releasing my foreground so that it can step forward into the spotlight of the stage? And see, and then this too we could differentiate, right? Get a little action on that child on his back. It doesn't have to be really descript, but even just a little bit will help. Yeah, and then we want to show that she's pulling this dead weight up. Oh my gosh, you're too big to do this. You're getting too big. Okay. All right, so I know this was a little fast and furious today on this structure versus flow. And basically I just wanted to kind of touch on it in all these different ways, in the 90-degree angle versus the 3/4, and the pinch versus the stretch, and the hard edge versus the open edge, in all these different ways, right? In the curve versus the straight. Because Katie, you've got a beautiful thing going on, and you have enough skill to make these really nice. But we're going to have to slow down and do a few things. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that these first big movements are right. Because if you don't get those right to start with, it's kind of hard to come back to those. All right. So why don't we end that there? Let's end with one more shout out for Procreate tonight. Last chance to sign up. So get in touch with us. Leave a message, send an email, jasonmeyer.com. We'll get you guys set up. And then tomorrow morning, we'll be back, hopefully live on YouTube, if we can get it right tomorrow. And we'll see you guys then. All right. Much love, everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.